Captain Deho sat in his command chair, watching the stars drift past the viewport of his patrol station. Another boring shift on the edge of Raxian Empire space. Nothing ever happened out here near Talos 9. The moon below held valuable minerals. But no one was stupid enough to challenge Imperial borders. Not anymore. Captain, I'm picking up something strange, Lieutenant Minji called from her tactical station. Her voice carried an edge that made Deho sit up straighter. Define strange, Lieutenant. Unknown vessel approaching from deep space. The signature doesn't match anything in our database. Minji's fingers danced across her console, pulling up more information. It's not broadcasting any identification codes. Deho stood and walked to her station. The sensor display showed a single contact moving toward Imperial space at steady velocity. Not fast, not slow. Just constant and unwavering. Size? He asked, comparable to one of our heavy cruisers, maybe larger. The readings are unclear. There's something about the whole composition that's interfering with our scans. Deho felt a small flutter of unease but pushed it down. He commanded 12 ships at this station. Whatever this intruder was, they would handle it. The Varaxian Empire hadn't lost a border skirmish in decades. Open a channel. Standard greeting and identification request. Communications officer worked his controls. Channel open, sir. Unknown vessel. You are approaching Vraxian Imperial space. Identify yourself immediately and state your intentions. Attic crackled through the speakers. Then a voice responded, but the words were garbled. The translation matrix struggled with the language, producing fragments that made no sense. Run it through the linguistic database, Deho ordered. Every known language. The computer worked for several seconds, far longer than normal. Finally, text appeared on the screen. Partial match Old Earth. Standard extinct language. Confidence 67%. Deho stared at the words. Old Earth Standard. That was impossible. Earth had been destroyed 300 years ago. Every human in the galaxy had died in the bombardment. It was ancient history. Taught to children as a cautionary tale about species that refused to accept their place in the galactic order. Sir. They're responding again, the communications officer said. This time the translation matrix had adjusted. The voice came through clearly, spoken with calm authority. This is Commander Hyunwoo of the vessel Indomitable. We are passing through this region. We mean no harm to your station. Passing through? Deho felt his confusion turning to anger. This is Imperial space. No one passes through without permission. You will halt immediately and prepare to be boarded for inspection. There was a pause. Then Hyunwoo's voice returned, still calm. We will not be stopping. You may scan us if you wish, but we will not submit to boarding. Our course is set. Minji looked up at Deho with wide eyes. No one spoke to Imperial officers this way, ever, Lieutenant. Get a visual on that ship, Deho commanded. The main screen shifted to show the approaching vessel. Deho felt his breath catch. The ship was like nothing he had ever seen. It was angular and brutal in design, covered in armor plating that looked scarred and burned. Weapons bristled from its hull, far more than any civilian vessel should carry. This was a warship, and an old one by the look of it. The hull showed signs of countless repairs, patches welded over damaged sections, scorch marks that suggested battles fought long ago. That ship has seen combat, Minji whispered. Serious combat. Deho straightened his uniform. He couldn't show weakness, not in front of his crew. Unknown vessel, Indomitable. You have violated Imperial space and refused lawful orders. This is your final warning. Halt your vessel, or we will open fire. Captain, the communications officer said nervously. They're not responding. Then fire a warning shot. Target their forward path, close enough to make them reconsider. One of his patrol ships moved into position and launched a plasma bolt. It streaked across space, a brilliant blue line that passed within 100 meters of the human vessel's bow. Any sane captain would have immediately changed course or stopped. The Indomitable didn't even slow down. They're ignoring us, Minji said, her voice rising. Captain, their weapons are powering up. Deho felt sweat forming on his brow. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. Pirates ran when challenged. Smugglers surrendered. Even hostile foreign powers showed respect for imperial might. But this ship, this impossible human ship, acted like the Varaxian Empire meant nothing.
Battle stations,
He ordered. All ships form attack formation. If they won't stop, we'll make them stop. His 12 patrol vessels moved into position surrounding the approaching warship. It was a standard Imperial tactic, designed to intimidate and demonstrate overwhelming force. They had practiced this maneuver countless times. The human ship continued forward. Passing into the center of their formation, it rotated slowly, almost lazily, as if examining each Varaxian vessel in turn. "Sir, I'm detecting massive power fluctuations inside their ship," Minji reported. "Their reactor is operating at levels that should be impossible. The energy output is off our scale. I don't know. The signatures don't match anything I've seen before. It's like they're using completely different technology." Daiho opened a channel to all his ships. "This is Captain Daiho. We have an unidentified hostile vessel that has refused Imperial authority. We will disable it and take the crew into custody. Target their engines and weapons systems. Fire on my mark." He looked at the human ship on his screen one more time. Something about it made his instinct scream danger, but he couldn't back down now. Not with his entire crew watching. Fire. 12 Raxian ships opened fire simultaneously. Plasma bolts and missile volleys converged on the Indomitable from all sides. It was enough firepower to crack a moon. The space around the human vessel turned into a storm of light and energy. When the weapons fire cleared, Daiho expected to see a drifting wreck. Instead, the Indomitable hung in space, completely undamaged. A shimmering energy barrier surrounded it, dissipating the last of the attack's energy into space. "Impossible," Mingi breathed. "Their shields absorbed everything. Our sensors didn't even register a drain on their power systems." The human voice returned, and this time it carried a note of warning that made Daiho's blood run cold. "Captain Daiho, that was your mistake. We gave you a chance to avoid this. Now stand down your vessels, or we will respond in kind. You have 30 seconds to decide." Daiho looked around his bridge. His crew stared at him, waiting for orders. His training said to never surrender, never show weakness. But his instincts, honed over 20 years of command, were screaming that they had made a terrible error. The human warship began to glow with building energy. Weapon ports opened along its hull, revealing technology that should not exist. "All ships," Daiho said quietly. "Emergency retreat. Fall back to the Indomitable fired." Admiral Yuna received the emergency transmission while reviewing supply reports in her flagship. Captain Daiho's face appeared on her screen, and she could see the smoke and sparks behind him even before he spoke. "Admiral, we need immediate reinforcement. Unknown hostile has disabled 4 of my ships. Conventional weapons have no effect. Request full battle group response." Yuna set down her datapad and leaned forward. "Disabled for patrol ships? Captain, explain yourself. What kind of hostile are we talking about?" "They claim to be human, Admiral." The bridge went silent. Every officer within earshot turned to stare at the screen. Yuna felt her mouth go dry. Human? That was impossible. Completely impossible. "Captain, humans are extinct. They have been for 300 years. You must be mistaken." "I know what our history says, Admiral. But this ship speaks Old Earth standard. Its technology doesn't match any known civilization. And it just crippled a third of my force without even depleting its shields." Yuna stood up. If Daiho was correct, if there really was a human warship in Imperial space, then this was bigger than a border incident. This was a crisis that could shake the entire empire. "Hold your position and do not engage further. I'm bringing the 3rd Fleet. We'll be there in 4 hours." She cut the transmission and began issuing orders. Within minutes, her battle group was preparing for emergency deployment. 12 capital ships, the pride of the Varaxian military, began their jump to the Talos 9 sector. 4 hours later, Yuna's fleet emerged from quantum space near the border station. Captain Daiho's remaining ships were holding positions several thousand kilometers from the unknown vessel. The human ship hung in space like a predator waiting for prey. "Get me a full tactical analysis," Yuna commanded. "I want to know everything about that ship." Her tactical officer worked quickly. "Admiral, the vessel is approximately 800 meters long. Hull composition is unknown. Appears to be some form of composite armor. Energy output suggests a reactor design we've never encountered. Weapon systems are active, but not locked on target. Defensive shields are at full strength. Life signs. Difficult to read through their hull, but estimated crew of 300. 300 humans." Yuna tried to process that information. If there were 300 alive, how many more were out there? Where had they been hiding for 3 centuries? Open a channel. The communication went through, and a man's face appeared on the screen. He was middle-aged, with short dark hair and calm eyes that showed no fear despite being outnumbered 12-1. He wore a uniform that looked military, but bore no insignia Yuna recognized. "I am Admiral Yuna of the Varaxian Imperial Third Fleet. You have attacked Imperial forces and violated our sovereignty. Surrender your vessel immediately." The human studied her for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was measured and controlled. "I am Commander Hunwu. We did not attack your forces. We defended ourselves when fired upon. We are passing through this region and have no interest in Imperial affairs." "You don't get to decide that," Yuna snapped. "This is our space. Our laws apply here. You will surrender or be destroyed." Hyenwa's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "Sadness, maybe? Or pity, Admiral. I strongly advise you to let us pass. We don't want conflict, but we will not be detained or boarded. Turn your ships around, and this ends peacefully." The audacity of it made Yuna's temper flare. A single ship, outnumbered and surrounded, telling a full Imperial battle group to retreat. It was insulting beyond measure. "You have 1 minute to power down your weapons and shields. If you refuse, we will disable your ship and take you into custody. This is not negotiable." Hunwu sighed. "Then I'm sorry for what happens next. You have 10 minutes to withdraw? This is your only warning." Yuna cut the channel. She looked around her bridge at the shocked faces of her crew.
Battle stations.
"All ships. Attack formation Gamma. We're taking that vessel intact if possible, but I want it disabled regardless. Target engines and weapons. Overwhelming force. Coordinated strike. Let's show them what happens when someone challenges the Empire." Her fleet moved into position. Weapons locked onto the human ship from every angle. Fire control systems calculated optimal firing solutions. This was what the Varaxian military did best: precise, devastating, coordinated attacks. "All ships report ready, Admiral. Fire." The space around the Indomitable erupted in light. Every ship in Yuna's battle group unleashed their weapons simultaneously. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, particle beams, everything they had poured into the human vessel. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The human ship disappeared behind a wall of energy and explosions. "Direct hits across all targets," the tactical officer reported. Reading multiple. "Wait, Admiral, their shields are still up. They're holding." "Impossible." "Hit them again." The second volley was even more concentrated. Yuna's ships focused all their firepower on a single section of the human vessel's shields, trying to create a weak point they could exploit. The shields flickered slightly, but held firm.
"Admiral."
"Their power readings haven't dropped at all. It's like our weapons aren't even affecting them." Before Yuna could respond, the Indomitable moved. It wasn't a large movement, just a slight rotation to bring its weapons to bear. But the speed and precision of it sent a chill down her spine. "Coming fire!" Someone shouted. The human ship fired 3 times. 3 short, precise bursts of energy, unlike anything Yuna had seen. They weren't plasma or particle beams. The weapons looked almost like focused light, but they cut through space faster than anything she'd ever encountered. 3 of her cruisers went dark. Not destroyed, not exploding, just shut down. Their engines died, their weapons powered off, their lights went out. Dead in space. "Report. They targeted the reactor cores, Admiral. Surgical strikes." The ships are intact but completely disabled. No casualties, but those vessels won't be fighting again without major repairs. Yuna stared at the screen in disbelief. 3 capital ships disabled in seconds. Not damaged or destroyed, but precisely neutralized with minimal force. It was the kind of accuracy that shouldn't be possible in ship-to-ship combat. "Pull back," she ordered quietly. "All ships, retreat to safe distance." Her fleet withdrew, leaving the 3 disabled cruisers floating between them and the human vessel. The Indomitable didn't pursue. It simply waited. Weapons still charged and ready. Yunez's hands trembled as she opened an emergency channel to Imperial High Command. This was beyond her authority now. This required the Empress herself. "This is Admiral Yuna. I need immediate connection to the capital. Priority emergency. Code word, legacy. Legacy." The code word for threats to the Empire's existence? She had never thought she would use it in her lifetime while she waited for the connection. She watched the human ship on her screen. It sat there in the darkness of space, scarred and ancient, but clearly more advanced than anything the Varaxian Empire possessed. The galaxy had killed humanity 300 years ago. Yuna had learned about it in Military Academy, a footnote in the history of Imperial expansion. A minor species that refused to accept their limitations. So the great powers of the galaxy united to end the threat, but looking at that warship now, Yuna realized something terrifying. They hadn't killed humanity. They had only made humanity angry. And now, after 3 centuries of silence, humans had returned. What kind of species survives extinction and comes back stronger? Commander Hyenwoo's face appeared on her screen again, uninvited. "Admiral, you should know something. We're not alone out here. My ship is just the first. Behind us, there are more. Many more. Tell your Empress that humanity has returned, and we will not be destroyed again." The transmission ended. Yuna sat in her command chair, watching the human warship, and tried to imagine how many more ships. It's like it were waiting in the darkness beyond the Empire's borders. The thought kept her awake for days afterward. Empress Borum sat on her throne, watching the recording of Admiral Yuna's encounter for the 3rd time. Around her, the Imperial Council stood in uncomfortable silence. No one wanted to speak first about what they had just witnessed. "Chancellor Minho," she finally said, "tell me about the humans." The elderly historian stepped forward, his hands clasped behind his back. He had served 3 empresses in his long life, and Borum valued his knowledge of the past. "The human extinction happened 287 years ago, Your Majesty. Earth and its colonies refused to accept the Galactic Council's restrictions on military development. The Council saw them as a threat and decided to eliminate that threat permanently. Every major power participated in the bombardment. Earth was rendered uninhabitable. All known human colonies were destroyed." "All known colonies," Borum repeated. "But clearly not all colonies." "It would seem so, Your Majesty." Borum stood and walked to the great window that overlooked her capital city. Millions of Roxians lived below, safe and secure in the knowledge that the Empire protected them. She had maintained that peace for 20 years. Now a ghost from the past threatened everything.
How many escaped?
"The records are unclear, Your Majesty. During the final days of the human war, there were reports of colony ships fleeing into deep space. The galactic powers pursued some, but others vanished. It was assumed they perished in the void." "They didn't perish," Borum said quietly. "They survived. For almost 3 centuries, they survived somewhere out there, building, preparing. And now, they've returned with technology that makes our finest warships look primitive." She turned back to face her council. "I want answers. Where have they been? How many are there? What do they want? And most importantly, can we stop them?" Admiral Yuna spoke up from her position near the tactical display. "Your Majesty, I don't believe conventional military force will be effective against them. The technology gap is too large. We need more information before we can formulate a strategy. And get me that information." "Admiral." While the Imperial Council debated strategy, Commander Hyenwoo stood in the observation deck of the Indomitable, looking out at the stars. His chief science officer, Dr. Yunji, joined him with a data pad in her hands. "The scans are complete," she said. "This region of space has changed significantly since we left. New civilizations, new borders. The Varaxian Empire controls a third of this sector now. We weren't even a spacefaring species when we fled," Hyun-woo said. "Now, they're a galactic power. Time changes everything. Are we really going to do this?" Yoonji asked. "Challenge the entire galactic order again? It didn't work out well for us last time." Hyun-woo looked at her. "Last time, we asked for permission to exist on our own terms. We asked to be left alone to develop, as we saw fit. They answered with fire and death. This time, we're not asking." A communication alert chimed. The face of the Marine commander, Tai Jin, appeared on the screen. "Sir, you need to see this. We've been monitoring Imperial communications. They're mobilizing their full military. Every fleet, every battle group, they're coming for us," expected Hyunwoo said. "What's our status?" "The first fleet is ready. 50 ships, all fully operational. We can be here in 6 hours." Hyunwoo nodded. "Tell them to come. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity has become." Back in the Imperial Palace, Chancellor Minho made a discovery that made his blood run cold. Deep in the restricted archives, behind layers of security clearances, he found the true records of the human extinction. The official history taught 2 citizens was sanitized, clean. The real history was brutal. He brought his findings to Empress Borum in her private chambers. "Your Majesty, I found something in the old military archives. The truth about why the galactic powers destroyed humanity. I already know the truth, Chancellor. They were a threat that had to be eliminated. That's what the records say. But there's more. Humans weren't destroyed because they were a military threat. They were destroyed because they were advancing too quickly. In just 500 years, they went from primitive technology to matching the older civilizations. Their scientists were making breakthroughs that took other species millennia to achieve. The Galactic Council wasn't afraid of human weapons. They were afraid that humans would surpass them." Borum absorbed this information slowly. "You're saying we destroyed them out of jealousy? Out of fear of being made obsolete?" The records suggest that humans were offered a choice. Stop all advanced research, accept permanent technological limitations, or face extinction. They chose to fight. "And 12 colony ships escaped," Borum said, understanding dawning on her face. 12 ships full of their best scientists, engineers, and military minds. They've spent 3 centuries in isolation, developing without any restrictions, driven by the memory of their destroyed homeworld. Yes, Your Majesty, we didn't kill humanity. We created something worse. We gave them 300 years to evolve, to innovate, to become stronger than we ever imagined. And all with the burning motivation of a species that was nearly wiped out?" Minho nodded gravely. "I believe that's exactly what happened." Before Borum could respond, alarms blared throughout the palace. Admiral Luna's voice came through on emergency channels.
Your Majesty.
Multiple contacts emerging from quantum space near the border. "The readings are consistent with the human vessel we encountered. There are dozens of them." "No, wait, more are appearing." "Your Majesty, we're reading 50 unknown vessels." "It's a fleet." Borum rushed to the command center with Minho close behind. The tactical display showed the border region near Talos 9, around the single human ship they had been monitoring. Space was rippling as more vessels emerged from. It's faster than light travel. The human fleet was unlike anything the Empire had seen. Each ship was unique, clearly built by different colonies over the centuries. Some were massive dreadnoughts bristling with weapons. Others were sleeker, faster designs. But all of them bore the scars of battles fought far from known space, and all of them radiated the same overwhelming power as the Indomitable. 50 warships, Admiral Yuna said, her voice strained. "Your Majesty, if each one is as powerful as the first, we're looking at a force that could challenge our entire military." A transmission request came through, flagged with highest priority. Borum accepted it, and Commander Hyun-woo's face appeared on the screen. But he wasn't alone. Behind him stood other humans, other commanders from the fleet that had just arrived. Empress Borum Hunwu said formally. I am Commander Hyunwoo of the Human First Fleet. We are the survivors of Earth's destruction, the descendants of those your ancestors tried to exterminate. We have returned to reclaim our place in this galaxy. Borum forced herself to speak calmly. What do you want? What we always wanted. Freedom. Territory to call our own. The right to exist without asking permission from powers that fear us. We don't want war, Empress. But we are prepared for it. 300 years in the darkness has taught us how to survive, how to fight, how to win. You're outnumbered, Borum said, though she knew it was a weak argument. The Empire has thousands of ships. Numbers don't win wars, Empress. Technology does. Will does. And we have both in abundance. We've been preparing for this moment since the day our ancestors fled Earth's burning skies. Your empire is powerful, but you've never fought an enemy that has nothing to lose and everything to prove. Another human stepped forward, a woman with sharp eyes. This is Dr. Yunji. I'll be transmitting technical specifications of our vessel designs to your military. Not as a threat, but as information. You need to understand what you're facing. We've spent 3 centuries developing technology without any external restrictions. What you saw from the Indomitable is standard across our fleet. We can disable your ships without destroying them. We can outmaneuver your tactics. We can outlast any siege. This isn't arrogance, Empress. It's fact. The data started flowing into Imperial systems. Borum watched as her officers' faces went pale, reading the specifications. The human ships operated on principles that were theoretically impossible according to current Vraxian science. You have a choice to make, Hyunwoo continued. You can try to finish what your ancestors started, or you can negotiate. We will have territory. We will have freedom. The only question is how much blood gets spilled before that happens. Borum looked at Admiral Yuna, who slowly shook her head. The message was clear. The military didn't think they could win this fight. I need time to consult with my advisors, Borum finally said. You have 72 hours, Hyunwoo replied. After that, we start claiming worlds whether you agree or not. The transmission ended. Borum sat down heavily in her command chair, suddenly feeling the weight of an entire empire on her shoulders. Behind her, Chancellor Minho spoke softly. Perhaps, Your Majesty, our ancestors made the wrong choice 3 centuries ago. Perhaps it's time we made a different one. Grand Admiral Kyung-ho had not risen to the highest military rank in the Varaxian Empire by being cautious. When Empress Borum summoned him to discuss the human situation, he already had a plan in mind, Your Majesty, with respect. Negotiating with these humans would be a catastrophic mistake, he said, standing before the Imperial Council. We show weakness once, and every subject species in the Empire will see it. We'll face rebellions across 100 worlds. Admiral, did you review the technical specifications they sent us? Borum asked. Our analysts say their technology is decades ahead of ours. Technology can be overcome with numbers and strategy. They have 50 ships. We can mobilize 500 to 1,000 if needed. The Imperial Armada has never lost a major engagement. One of the few civilian members of the Council cleared his throat nervously. Grand Admiral, perhaps we should consider what message we're sending. The humans were nearly exterminated once. If we try again and fail, we'll have created an enemy that will never forgive us. If we succeed, we prove to the galaxy that the Empire rules through fear and genocide. The Empire rules through strength, Kung-ho shot back. That's what maintains order. The moment we negotiate with these refugees, we admit they can challenge us. Better to end this threat now, permanently, than to let it grow. Empress Borum looked between her military commander and her civilian advisor. Both made valid points. Both terrified her in different ways. How long would it take to mobilize the full armada? She asked. 6 days, Your Majesty. We can have 500 capital ships and their support vessels at the Helix Nebula, which lies between human positions and our core worlds. We make our stand there. And if we lose, Kyung-ho's jaw tightened. We won't lose. I stake my career on it. Borum made her decision, though everything in her gut said it was wrong. Do it. Mobilize the armada. But Admiral, I want minimal casualties on both sides if possible. Disable their ships, force surrender, but avoid wholesale destruction. If we can capture their fleet intact, we can study their technology. You command. Your Majesty. 6 days later, the Imperial Armada gathered at the Helix Nebula, a region of space filled with colorful gas clouds and stellar formations. It was beautiful and deadly, with sensor-disrupting radiation and gravitational anomalies. Kyung-ho had chosen it specifically because it would neutralize some of the human technological advantages. 500 Vraxian warships hung in formation, the largest military force assembled in over a century. Kyung-ho stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Emperor's Will, and felt confidence surging through him. No force in the known galaxy could stand against this much firepower. The humans arrived exactly when expected. Their 50 ships emerged from quantum space at the edge of the nebula. Kyung-ho had to admit they looked impressive. Each vessel moved with precision, taking up defensive positions with practiced efficiency. "Open a channel," Kyung-ho ordered. Commander Hyun-woo's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired but determined. "This is Grand Admiral Kyung-ho of the Imperial Armada. You are outnumbered 10 to 1. Power down your weapons and surrender your vessels. This is your only chance to avoid destruction." Grand Admiral Hyun-woo replied calmly, "I respect your position, but you're making a mistake. Your numbers mean less than you think in modern warfare. Withdraw your forces, and we can still negotiate." "The time for negotiation is past. You have 5 minutes to comply," the human commander sighed. "I'm sorry you've chosen this path. Know that we take no pleasure in what comes next." The transmission ended. Kyung-ho smiled. Empty words from a commander who knew he was beaten. "All ships, attack formation. We'll envelop them from all sides, cut off any escape routes. Focus fire on their largest vessels first." The Armada moved forward like a tidal wave of steel and firepower. From Kyung-ho's perspective, it was glorious. Centuries of military tradition and strength, bearing down on an upstart enemy. Then the battle began. Everything went wrong. The human ships didn't engage in the expected manner. Instead of forming defensive lines or trying to break through the encirclement, they scattered. Each vessel moved independently, dodging through the nebula's gas clouds, using the terrain in ways Vraxian pilots had never considered. "They're everywhere." His tactical officer shouted, "They're not fighting as a fleet, they're fighting as individuals." Kyung-ho frowned. It was chaos, completely undisciplined. But somehow it was working. His ships kept targeting positions where human vessels had been seconds ago. While return fire from the humans struck with pinpoint accuracy, 3 of his cruisers went dark in the first minute. Their engines precisely disabled. Then 5 more. The humans weren't destroying ships. They were systematically disabling them with surgical strikes.
Oh.
"All ships, tighten formation. Don't let them isolate you." But the humans adapted instantly. They began targeting ships on the edges of formations, forcing the Varaxians to either spread out to protect themselves or cluster together and limit their firing angles. Kyung-ho realized with growing horror that he was watching a completely different style of warfare. Varaxian tactics were based on centuries of established doctrine, rigid formations, and overwhelming firepower. The humans fought like they were born in chaos, every ship making independent decisions, trusting each other to cover gaps and exploit opportunities. "Something else is happening," his intelligence officer reported. "We're getting reports from our rear areas. Human ships have been detected near our supply depots and shipyards. Possible. All their ships are here. We're tracking them." "Not all of them, sir. These are smaller vessels, stealth ships. They must have been in the region for weeks, just watching and waiting." Kyung-ho felt his confidence crumbling. This wasn't just a battle. It was a coordinated military operation that had been planned long before the Armada was even mobilized. The humans had used the mobilization time to position assets throughout Imperial space. "Captain," Seal commanded one of those stealth ships. Her vessel, Shadowrunner, hung invisible near a major Imperial shipyard, her crew watching as supply vessels came and went. She had spent 40 days in this system, mapping every ship, every station, every defense platform. "Captain, We have authorization to proceed, her communications officer reported. ICL nodded. Execute plan. Disable the defense platforms first, then target the construction yards. Minimal casualties. We're not here to kill, we're here to send a message. Your ship and 3 others like it move through the system like ghosts. They disabled weapon systems with electromagnetic pulses, crippled shipyard construction capabilities, and destroyed supply depots. Within an hour, a major Imperial military installation was rendered non-operational, without a single casualty. The same scene played out across a dozen. Imperial systems, human stealth teams struck at the Empire's infrastructure while the Armada was distracted at the Helix. Nebula. Back at the battle, Kyung-ho was being forced to make a terrible decision. His forces had disabled some human ships, but at a cost of nearly 100 of his own vessels disabled or destroyed. And now reports were flooding in about attacks throughout the Empire. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Minister Jaewon. He's requesting immediate ceasefire. Civilian populations are beginning to panic. They see human ships operating freely in Imperial space, and they're losing faith in our protection. Kyung-ho slammed his fist on his command console. I will not surrender to 50 ships. Grand Admiral, his tactical officer, said quietly, we're not fighting 50 ships anymore. We're fighting a distributed enemy that's been planning this for decades. They've studied us, learned our tactics, identified our weaknesses. Every move we make, they've already anticipated. A new transmission came through, and this time it was Empress Borum herself. Grand Admiral, cease your attack immediately. That is a direct order. Your Majesty, you can still lose more ships and more lives for no gain. I'm watching the same tactical displays you are, Admiral. We've lost. Accept it, before we lose more than our pride. Kyung-ho felt his world collapsing. His entire career had been built on the Empire's military invincibility, and now in one battle, that illusion was shattered. All ships, cease fire. Fall back to defensive positions. Human vessels stopped attacking immediately. They held their positions, weapons ready, but not firing. Waiting. Commander Hyan-woo's voice came through on an open channel. Grand Admiral, you fought with honor and courage. Your tactics were sound by any conventional measure. But we stopped fighting conventional wars 300 years ago, when conventional warfare meant our extinction. We learned to adapt, to survive, to fight in ways our enemies couldn't predict. We don't want to destroy your empire. We just want you to understand that destroying us isn't an option anymore. Kyung-ho said nothing. There was nothing to say. He had commanded the greatest military force in the Empire's history, and he had been outmaneuvered at every turn. On her stealth ship, Captain Iziel received new orders. All strike teams returned to rally points. Mission complete. As she guided her ship back into the darkness, she thought about the irony of it all. The galaxy had tried to make humanity extinct. Instead, they had created a species that learned to thrive in the harshest conditions imaginable. That treated impossible odds as just another problem to solve. Humanity had returned, and they had returned unbeatable. The neutral station hung in empty space between Imperial territory and the region humans now claimed as their own. It was an old mining station, long abandoned, but it served perfectly for what Empress Borum needed. A place where neither side held advantage, where talks could happen without the weight of military might pressing down on every word. Borum arrived with a small escort. It's just 3 ships. Any more would have looked like aggression. Commander Hyan-woo arrived alone, his ship Indomitable the only human vessel present. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. The Empire needed protection. Humanity needed only confidence. They met in a conference room that had once been used for shift managers to plan mining operations. Now it would host negotiations that would reshape the galaxy. Borum entered first, accompanied by Chancellor Minho and Minister Jaewon. Hyunwha entered moments later with Dr. Yoonji and Marine Commander Taijin. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. Human and Varaxian, face to face, with 3 centuries of blood between them. Thank you for coming, Borum said finally. I know trust is in short supply between our peoples. Hyun-woo nodded. Trust takes time to build, Empress. But we can start with honesty. So let me be honest. We didn't return to conquer the galaxy. We returned because we have nowhere else to go. The colonies we built in the darkness sustained us, but they were never meant to be permanent. We're a species that evolved on planets under open skies. We need worlds. Not yours, but our own. How many worlds are you asking for? 12. One for each colony ship that escaped Earth's destruction. We've already identified suitable systems on the galactic rim, far from your core territories. They're not valuable to the Empire, mostly frontier regions with minimal resources, but they'll be home for us. Minister Jawan consulted his datapad. Those systems are technically Imperial territory, but you're right that they're largely undeveloped. The bigger issue is the precedent. If we simply give you 12 worlds, every subject species will demand the same. Then give them the same. Taijin spoke up, his voice rough from years commanding Marines in hostile environments. Your empire rules through fear and military might, but you just learned that military might has limits. Maybe it's time for a different approach. Chancellor Minho stroked his beard thoughtfully. You're suggesting we restructure the entire empire? That would take decades. Or it takes one decision, Dr. Yunji said. Humanity doesn't want to overthrow your empire, but we won't submit to it either. We're offering a third option, coexistence. We take our 12 worlds, keep your territory, and we establish formal diplomatic relations as equals. Equals, Borum repeated the word slowly. The Empire hasn't recognized anyone as an equal in 200 years. Then you're overdue, Hunhua said without malice. Empress, I've read your history. The Varaxian Empire was built through conquest, but it was maintained through administrative efficiency and technological advancement. You brought stability to hundreds of worlds. That's not something to dismiss. But stability maintained through fear alone eventually collapses. You need allies, not just subjects. Borum stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. Minho had given her the complete historical records, including the ones that had been buried. She knew what her ancestors had done to humanity and why. Fear of being surpassed, of becoming obsolete. If I agree to this, she said without turning, I'm admitting the Empire was wrong. I'm admitting we committed genocide out of fear and jealousy. That's not an easy thing to put into an official treaty. The treaty doesn't need to say that, Hunwu replied. The treaty just needs to recognize humanity's right to exist and our sovereignty over the 12 worlds we're claiming. The rest is between you and your own conscience. Borum turned back to face him. And what's to stop you from taking more later? From using your technological advantage to expand beyond 12 worlds? Nothing, except our word. And I know that's not much comfort given our history. But consider this, Empress. We've spent 300 years isolated from galactic civilization. We don't want conquest. We want what every species wants. Security, purpose, a place to call home. We're tired of running, tired of hiding. We just want to live, Minister Jawan spoke up. There's another consideration, Your Majesty. We've been monitoring communications across the Empire since the battle. Subject species are talking. They see that humans stood up to the Armada and won. If we don't handle this correctly, we could face rebellions across multiple sectors. Or, Chancellor Minho added, we could show that the Empire is capable of change, that we can negotiate rather than dominate. It might actually strengthen our position in the long run. Borum sat down heavily. The weight of the decision pressed on her. Everything her predecessors had built, all the imperial traditions, the military pride, the unquestioned authority, all of it, balanced on what she said next. 12 worlds, she finally said. Sovereign human territory with full autonomy. Free passage for human vessels through imperial space. An embassy in the capital where we can maintain diplomatic relations. And in return, humanity agrees to respect imperial borders and doesn't support rebellions among our subject species. Agreed, Hunwu said immediately, though I'd add one more term. A technology exchange program. Limited at first, but growing over time. We can learn from each other. You want to share your advanced technology with us? Borum couldn't hide her surprise. Some of it, eventually, Not weapon systems, at least not immediately. But medical technology, environmental restoration techniques, things that benefit both our peoples. We're not interested in maintaining a permanent advantage. We just wanted to make sure you couldn't destroy us again. Dr. Youngji pulled out a data drive. This contains specifications for a water purification system that works on nearly any planet. It's one of the technologies we developed during our exile. Consider it a gesture of good faith. It could help millions of people across the Empire. Borum took the drive carefully. Why? Why offer this after everything we did to your people? Because someone has to break the cycle, Hyunwoo said simply. 300 years ago, the galaxy decided humanity was too dangerous to exist. They were wrong, but their fear was understandable. Advanced species fear being overtaken by younger ones. But that fear led to genocide, which led to our exile, which led to this confrontation. We can continue that cycle, or we can try something different. The negotiations continued for 3 more days. Details were hammered out, terms were refined, and slowly a treaty took shape. When it was finally done, Borum and Hyunwoo signed it together, their signatures appearing on the same document that would be distributed across the galaxy. The Treaty of the Void was called Simple Terms for a Complex Peace. Humanity would have their 12 worlds. The Empire would maintain its territory. Both sides would respect each other's sovereignty and establish formal, diplomatic relations. When news of the treaty reached Imperial space, reactions were mixed. Some celebrated the end of hostilities. Others saw it as shameful surrender. But most people, the ordinary citizens who just wanted to live their lives in peace, felt relief that war had been avoided. In the human fleet, celebrations were more subdued. 300 years of exile were ending, but the memory of Earth's destruction still burned. They would have worlds again, but they would never forget the cost. Admiral Yuna watched from her repaired flagship as the human fleet began its journey to their new territories. Lieutenant Mingi stood beside her, the same officer who had first detected the Indomitable all those weeks ago. "Do you think they'll come back for revenge someday?" Minji asked quietly. "I don't know," Yuna admitted. "But I know this. We learned something important. We learned that we're not invincible. That there are species out there who can match us, even surpass us. Maybe that's a good thing to learn before we become too arrogant." "Admiral, there's something I've been wondering. Commander Hyunwoo said his fleet was just the first fleet. Does that mean there are others?" Yuna smiled grimly. "I've been wondering the same thing. I suspect there are more human fleets out there, still hidden, still watching. I suspect they'll reveal themselves when they're ready, not before." On the Indomitable, Hyunwoo stood in his quarters, looking at an old photograph. It showed Earth as it had been, blue and green and beautiful, before the bombardment. His great-great-grandmother had carried this photo. When she fled on one of the colony ships, Dr. Yunji entered without knocking. They had served together too long to stand on ceremony. "We did it," she said. "We actually did it. We came home." "This isn't home," Hyunwoo replied, but his tone was gentle. "Earth was home. These 12 worlds are just where we'll build new homes. But yes, we did it. Our ancestors would be proud. What do we do now? Now we live. We build cities and farms. We raise children under open skies instead of metal corridors. We show the galaxy that humanity isn't just about survival and war. We're about hope too." Years later, Chancellor Minho would write the official history of the human return. He ended his account with these words: "The galaxy united once to destroy humanity out of fear. They failed. In their failure, they created something remarkable, a species that learned to survive anything, to adapt to any challenge, to never surrender.